He's the sun! Hello everybody's, it's Dark Souls time! I made a tier list from S to F, top to bottom, fact because my opinion is fact, of all the bosses in Dark Souls. This video is something I'm very passionate about and I really liked making it, hence why it took me a little bit more than a week. Alright, I'm sorry that there was no video last week. I wanted this to be high tier, high quality content for y'alls. So, sorry not sorry. Jokes aside, I made a pretty cool video and I hope you all enjoy it. The ASYLUM demon is the first boss fight in Dark Souls. It's pretty much the tutorial boss fight and that becomes blatantly obvious once you fight it. It's slow, dies very quickly, and whatever damage it does is unknown, considering I haven't even been hit by it yet. But Shibari is the first boss fight. It's supposed to be easy. Bullshit. I had zero experience Dark Souls going to this fight, and I didn't even die once. But I'll be fair, just because it's doo-doo easy doesn't mean it can't be fun, right? While that may be true, ASYLUM demon isn't all that fun either. None of the attacks pose any sort of threat, and you can just camp behind their ass the entire time. The only fun you can get from this fight is if you choose to fight it with a broken straight sword on your first playthrough, and I recommend it. My final verdict is D tier, because even though there's nothing fun in this fight, at least it's short and I never have to do it again. Oh god damn it! The stray demon is if you took the ASYLUM demon and gave it a grenade every other attack. It's still slow as hell, but now it shoots red boom booms every now and then. I'll admit I actually did die in this one, but that's mostly because half of my health said peace when I fell into the arena. That weird tactic of falling into arenas just to deal you some damage is going to come up a lot in this video, so take note. But aside from the AoE blasts and the falling damage, it's pretty much the same fight. You can still just camp behind their ass, but now you just have to roll away every now and then. It's still a boring fight. Therefore, this boss also lands on the D tier, and hopefully we can now be done. Oh, what the fuck? I get that the demon ruins was rushed, and they didn't spend too much time on bosses. But why couldn't they do like a remade Bell Gargoyle or something? Not this guy again. The FIRESAGE demon is if you took the stray demon and gave it an RPG for every attack. Now the red boom booms are bigger and occur more often. The only big difference I see from the other two is that this one actually does decent damage and attacks a bit quicker. So now the strategy needs to be implemented, improved upon. The new strategy is camp behind the button, will only sit down and slam to the ground. I know you expect me to D tier this one, but for some reason this boss gave me just a little bit more adrenaline. Maybe it's because a friend of mine had his game glitched to where he could never get the demon's catalyst, or maybe it was the damage buff. But this boss is just quote unquote cooler. So I landed him in the C tier, and now we can finally move on from oh my god! Oh. Okay. The TAURUS demon is a significant improvement on the ASYLUM demon. His attacks have more of a variety to them, and his moveset is slightly harder to telegraph. Before I owned this game, I actually played it with a friend, and we got stuck on this boss for literal hours. To my defense, that was because my friend had neglected to tell me any controls, but moving on. A big bonus for this boss is that it's one of the few that allows for a super cool move, the plunging attack. If successfully done, this attack makes you feel like a badass without making the fight too easy. Unfortunately, there's still a way to cheese this boss. If you're staying between its legs for the entire fight, then you can never land an attack, unless the fight becomes sadly easy. In conclusion, I put this boss in the C tier. Its attacks have variety and the plunging attack is badass, but the boss remains just a bit too easy. The Bell Gargoyle was the first boss I had genuine difficulty with. A lot of their attacks start off extremely similar, so you have no idea where to roll. And just when you think you're getting the hang of it, congratulations, there's another one. It's the first boss fight in which there's multiple targets, essentially doubling the difficulty. It's also the first boss to offer a tail weapon, meaning that if you don't know about those in Orlando, you assume you must chop off the tail. Easier said than done. It's a very quick boss and likes to move around, so trying to land a direct tail hit on your first playthrough is like trying to hit a bullseye. The only big problem I see with this boss is the tendency to spam. The second gargoyle exclusively breathes fire if it can help it, and the first does not let up if the second lands an attack. But overall, it's a fun fight, and burns its way into the B tier. The Capra demon has by far the worst beginning of a boss fight. It is the only boss fight that's ultimately determined by RNG on your first playthrough. I say this because of these fuckers right here. If you're unlucky enough to get instantly attacked by a hell dog which stuns you into a kill attack, then you feel my pain. If these dogs were unkillable until the main boss died, then this would instantly become F tier. But alas, once you kill the dogs, this becomes a pretty fun fight. The small size of both the boss and the arena forces first timers to engage in close combat. The staircase leading to a small ledge allows for the always badass plunging attack. The quickness and variety of the Capra demon's moves puts pressure on the player for quick thinking moves. The only downside of this fight itself is the boss dies rather quickly. If not for that, and for the abhorrent dogs, this will land itself in B tier. Nevertheless, the negatives put it solidly in C tier. The Gaping Dragon has one of the most, let's just say, interesting designs in the game. It's around 75% mouth and 24% leg, with the last 1% being snout. Like the Bell Gargoyle, its tail can also be chopped off. Unlike the Bell Gargoyle, this baby is a fat boy. Most of its attacks are telegraphed well ahead of time, but it makes up for this by having an enormous reach and exorbitant damage. A general rule of thumb for most Dark Souls bosses is never to target them. That is especially true for the Gaping Dragon. It's just too thick. The best part is, there's really no way to cheese this boss. You just have to have patience and hit it when you have an opportunity, such as right after the chomp. The only downside is, once again, the thickness. It's just a bit too slow and most of the attacks aren't too threatening. Therefore, Big Boy chomps its way to the B tier. Amazing chest ahead! Chaos Witch QUELAAG will make you happy for the amazing boss fight, while also making you confused about your sexuality. One of the first bosses to introduce AoE combat, QUELAAG's Arachnobot is sure to kick your ass if you aren't careful. The lava slowly taking over the arena in tandem with the Fury Sword slashes makes for a genuinely fun fight. The only downside to this entire fight is simply that the lava attacks are a bit long, opening QUELAAG to a barrage of attacks that seem a little bit spam-like. QUELAAG swings the web to the A tier. Now the more important part, how to sleep with her without sexing up a spider. First step, the centaur theory, is that a penetration look to the mouth, and most importantly, the booty. There's really not that much to say about the Iron Golem. It's essentially a slower, stronger version of the TAURUS demon that can shoot bolts of laser. Like the TAURUS demon, you can just hide in between the legs. As long as you take out the giant before the fight, this boss isn't hard at all. The only edge it holds over other bosses is its damage, which is decent, and the fact that it guards the glorious Anor Londo. The Iron Golem falls into the C tier. This fight slaps. Not only is it the most difficult in the base game, it's also the boss based most in skill. If you die, you can't blame it on falling in the beginning, or a damn dog, or being too distracted. The only fault is you, and this is coming from someone who died at least 20 times to these guys. Ornstein's speed and high health forces you to think 10 frames ahead of time, while SMOUGH's damage and towering figure triggers your fight or flight response. It's also one of the few fights that changes entirely once you reach the halfway point. What's even more, it changes based on who you kill first. If you kill Ornstein first, you get Super SMOUGH, which is SMOUGH, but if you use pine resin on his hammer. So now instead of 2 hits, it only takes 1 to fuck you up. But that pales in comparison to Super Ornstein, who's Ornstein but the size of SMOUGH, with SMOUGH's attack and Ornstein's speed and health. And the hardest part, you need to kill both in the same life. No killing SMOUGH, dying, and then just fighting thick Ornstein. Nope, you have to get them both. Nevertheless, it's all worth it once you see the reward. Psst, not warping, this. Amazing chest ahead! Ornstein and SMOUGH get supersized into the S tier. Why? Good God, why? Why must I kill Best Doggo? F tier! In all seriousness, Great Grey Wolf Sith is by far the saddest boss fight in Dark Souls. Not that it's a bad boss fight, it's actually pretty good. It's because you have to kill a dog. Who wants to kill a dog? It's even more sad if you save her in the DLC before you do it. Anyways, as I said, the fight itself is pretty damn good. The attacks can be dodged without much effort, but can still kill you if you're not paying attention. Sif's speed and tendency to jump around the map eliminates the possibility of cheesing her, and the music is a perfect blend of melancholy and perseverance, which obviously blends well with the lore. The only downside to this fight lies not in the boss itself or even the game, but the hardware behind the game. Because of the million strands of fur on Sif's design, this boss drops the FPS to a Google slide presentation, and it really messes up your rhythm. I find this hilarious, considering I was playing Dark Souls Remastered, a game released in 2018. It fixed literally nothing about the original game. It's bullshit. Getting back on track, Sif gets A tier for boss fight, but S tier for Doggo. Fuck this boss. My hatred of this boss goes beyond what science can measure. There are a multitude of reasons why I think this boss is the worst in the game, but I'll list the most important ones. Since you need to have the ring of Artorias equipped to walk around in the abyss, you have to unequip one of your rings. And since one of my rings was the ring of favor and protection, which breaks once you take it off, I had to take off Havel's ring. My whole character was centered around a mid-rolling heavy armored build that depended on Havel's ring. Without Havel's ring, I fatty rolled with pretty much all of my main armor, even with a high endurance stat. But Shibari, you can just pose the hell out of them and win. You'll kill them before they kill you. Well, you must have done only one playthrough, because New Game Plus, not only do they have one of the highest HPs of all bosses, they also will kill you extremely quickly if you're not careful. Another problem I have is the arena itself. It's so goddamn disorienting that you can't dodge almost anything, even if you timed it perfectly with fucking fatty rolls. That's the main problem I have with this boss fight. The disorientation kills you, not the boss. Other problems include the bland design of the boss, the pressure to kill the boss quickly, and the insane scaling from base game to New Game Plus. This boss is not only boring, but is boring and difficult. I know I said before that difficulty makes a boss more fun, but in the case of the Four Kings, it just prolongs an already annoying fight. The Four Kings get banished to the F tier. Ceaseless Discharge takes the cake for the least variety of moves in all of Dark Souls, as in it literally has one fucking attack. Some may argue that this and this are different attacks, but I say that if all you need to do is roll to the side in both cases, it's the same attack. Apart from that, it does decent damage if you're stupid enough to get hit by the one fucking attack it does, and it does give off sort of intimidating vibes. Sort of. But it's an incredibly bland fight regardless. There's common enemies in this game with more variety and adaptability than this guy. Ceaseless Discharge is a sad excuse for a boss, but the fact that it's short lets it melt into the D tier. The Centipede Demon is one of the few bosses that uses its environment to its advantage. The arena is essentially an enormous lava pit, and if it's your first playthrough and you don't have the charred ring, this lava will fuck you up. I found the best strategy was to immediately follow the stone path to the right of the entrance. There's a fairly large area there with little lava. The fight itself was rather interesting and reminded me of the Hydra Demon seen earlier in the game. If you choose to chop off more of these head-like limbs, the boss becomes significantly easier. It reminds me a lot of the Monster Hunter series, and I always find it cool when a game does this sort of limb loss strategy. The attacks have a decent amount of variety, but they're all a bit too easy to dodge. In fact, the fight itself is just a bit too easy. I've yet to die from it, even after doing the fight 3 times. Overall, the Centipede Demon has a couple very unique traits about the fight, such as the lava or limb loss, but it's just a tad bit too easy to enjoy for long. This boss lands in the B tier. Imagine if Super Mario Brothers met Dark Souls. That's the beta chaos. Hey, you know what we should do? What? Put platforming in a fucking Souls game. Amazing idea. Personally, this boss was easy since, as I said earlier, my build was based on insane poise. So all of its attempts to banish you into the Shadow Realm just bounced right off of me. But I can understand how infuriating this boss is if you're not using a mid-rolling build. Not only can it push you off the platforms, there's also invisible walls anytime you want to take a fucking shortcut. It's not even really a boss. You only have to hit it 3 times. The devs could have just made this an area and I can guarantee you no one would tell the difference. It's boring, difficult without a poise build, it doesn't even belong in a Souls game. The beta chaos jumps its way into the F tier. On surface level, SEATH seems like an okay or otherwise B tier boss fight. His invincibility is quickly solved and doesn't offer up any real challenge. His easily dodgeable attacks are made more difficult with the risk of cursing, and the background lore and feel of the fight make it engaging. But once you add in the detail that his tail can be cut off like the Bell Gargoyle and the Gaping Dragon, this boss gets significantly more interesting. Excluding DLC, SEATH's tail is by far one of the hardest to get in the game. His huge body is constantly twisting and turning, and given the rather small space of the arena, his tail is often clipped into a wall. This, compounded with the fact that you must hit the very edge of his tail, makes getting the tail near impossible. The only 2 instances in which hitting this tail in time is possible is either the moment after he attacks, or when you destroy the primordial crystal. And even when you do either of these things, you still have to run like hell because he's just too big. This challenge bumps up SEATH in my book and curses him to the A tier. Should we even be talking about Pinwheel? I mean, come on, this is just sad. Fucking ceaseless discharge can be more than this guy, and that motherfucker has 1 attack. For those of you who don't play Dark Souls, I'm assuming most of you, Pinwheel is known for being quite literally the easiest boss in Dark Souls. Hell, I would go as far to say he's the easiest boss in any game. He takes around 10 hits to kill if you go into it at the proper level, and 90% of the time you kill him before he even has the chance to do any damage to you. The only damage being done to you is the falling damage done before the fight. No doubt a tactic to at least give this guy some edge. I have no idea about the damage, variety, or speed of any of his attacks. I've always killed him before he has the chance to do anything. To put Pinwheel anywhere other than the F tier is an insult to every Dark Souls fanatic out there. Gravelord NITO is better than Pinwheel, but not by much. Like Pinwheel, the fight also starts with falling damage. Unlike Pinwheel, NITO has 3 skeletons to fight you while you fight him. But if you're like me and carry a +10 Divine Great Club you've personally named Bam Bam, killing these guys isn't a challenge. Once you've killed them, and if you're careful enough to stay away from the giant skeleton corner, you can now fight NITO. Practically everything about NITO's fight is underwhelming. His attacks are easy to dodge, he dies rather quickly, and, like Sif, the frame rate drops to 2003 Newgrounds porn game when you fight him. The only reason he doesn't land in F tier is because of the constant looming threat of giant skelly corners.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
NITO gets slapped into the D tier. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. I like the Moonlight Butterfly boss fight. There! I said it. But it's so boring. Too easy and slow music, too calm. I want action, you just noob. First of all, fuck you. Second of all, I like the calmness of this fight. It finally gives me a chance to relax in this game. Dodging its slow beams feels graceful and you almost feel bad to kill it. The music adds to this guilt, as it's a symphony of melancholic opera and relaxing tunes. Sure, it may be insanely easy, and yeah, the boss shows little variety in attacks, but by giving me the ability to relax and really think about my actions, it gives me the tiniest break in this depressing game. This is why I think Moonlight Butterfly deserves a B tier, Anyone who pissed about it can go fuck themselves. Catgirl time! But she's a no! Kitty. Like the Moonlight Butterfly, I felt bad killing PRISCILLA. She gives you the option to leave after literally massacring many of her subjects, and has such a grace about her that it makes killing her feel like crushing a flower. When looking at the fight itself, she's relatively easy. The invisible gimmick is only difficult until you see the feet in the snow. So that's what the message meant. I thought that dude just had a foot fetish, like Quentin Tarantino or Dan Schneider. After you figure that out and expose her, the fight becomes almost way too easy. All of her attacks are telegraphed and can be dodged at almost any time, and her health leaves a lot to be desired. But, like SEATH, her fight is made better due to the fact that you can cut her tail off. The difficulty behind cutting her tail is not due to her size like SEATH, but due to the fact that her health is so low. Hit her a bit too much and she'll die before you even get the tail. Overall, PRISCILLA gives off a graceful personality and earns her spot in the B tier. GWYNDOLIN is perhaps one of the best hidden bosses in the game. Had I not looked up the secret achievement of killing them, I would have not even known they existed. Once you do find them, the boss fight itself is okay. With very little variety of attacks, one would think I would put this in the C tier, or perhaps even D tier, but there's something unique about this fight. Unlike the others, it's you who is on the offense, and GWYNDOLIN who's being defensive. The whole idea of chasing them down in infinite order and dodging their blows like it's nothing is satisfying, especially if you're going for the evil playthrough. It's not supposed to be a difficult fight. The HP is low, and while the attacks may deal decent damage, they're easy to dodge. But the whole concept of chasing down prey just seems cool to me. Dark Sun GWYNDOLIN teleports into the B tier. Here it is, the moment we've all been waiting for. The temptation is built for hours, and it's about to be released. This moment will go down in history. Playing a boss! This is by far the coolest thing about this fight. I had numerous opportunities to end the game, this being the final boss, but always waited until I could end it with a riposte. Because what's more of a pro gamer move than ending Dark Souls with the hardest attack to pull off in the game? Nothing. Aside from the fact that you can deliver an absolute epic blow to Gwyn, he really doesn't have much else going for him. He has only a couple moves up his sleeve, and most can be dodged relatively the same way. Being the final boss, you'd expect him to be ultra hard, but he's actually kind of easy. However, the music also helps to make this fight high quality. The somber tone jives well with the lore of this fight, and makes you feel almost sorry to kill Gwyn. Therefore, I think Gwyn earns his way into the A tier. However, just because he's the final boss doesn't mean we're done. We still have the DLC. There's no reason to hate this boss. Its tail can be chopped off, it moves quickly, it has incredible variety, and none of its attacks are unfair. But even so, I just can't help but hate it. Maybe it's the fact that my mid-rolling build can't dodge a certain attack. Maybe it's because the electricity damage is annoying as hell. Maybe it's because it never gives an opening and constantly attacks or even spams the same attack that I can't dodge because of mid-rolling. I fucking hate this boss, oh my god! There's really not much I can say about this boss. It's annoying, it's bland, and for some reason I just hate it. By my rules I shouldn't hate it, but I do. The Sanctuary Garden slumps into the D tier. Talk about a 180. I love this boss fight. Everything about it is perfect. ARTORIAS has an excellent variety of attacks with speed and damage to boot. The music employs an excellently melancholic tune to convey the sadness of what ARTORIAS has become. The lore behind the fight is honestly better than any other in the game. If for some reason this fight is too easy for you, you can choose to let ARTORIAS get a buff and become even harder. It's an excellent boss in every way. I don't know. It always seems like human-shaped bosses are a lot more fun than big boys. So ARTORIAS gets corrupted by the S tier. MANUS is like the Sanctuary Garden, but in reverse. I should hate this boss. The arena is in the abyss like the Four Kings, so it's just as disorienting, minus the small structures littering the area. Its body blends in with the background, so it's hard to telegraph the attacks, and the dark attacks are just a bit too strong. Even so, I just really like this boss. Unlike the Sanctuary Garden, I can give reasons for this. For one, having Sif as an ally is really fucking cool. Even if he just sort of gives more support instead of helping, best doggo. Another reason is the fact that this fight could be made a lot easier if you found the Silver Pendant. It repels dark magic, so those attacks lose a lot of their oomph if you can switch between that and SS flasks fast enough. It has an excellent variety of attacks and doesn't seem to spam just one at any moment. Had the arena been different, this battle could have very well made the S tier, but alas, Manus gets banished to the A tier. KALAMEET. What's considered the hardest boss in all of Dark Souls, counting DLC, with attacks unparalleled in variety and damage, speed that makes cheesing a silly joke, an attack that would double damage received that's sure to be an instant killer. The worst part? Its tail can be chopped off. In my opinion, this boss owns not only the most difficult title, but also the best. The constant adrenaline being produced when fighting this dragon feels like no other. And the fight itself isn't even the hardest part. Getting his tail took me a full hour. Why? Because his tail is in the air for most of the time. There was only one attack that gave me time to hit his tail, and that was the tail slam itself. Everything other than that was desperate survival, but there was no greater feeling than when you finally obtain that obsidian greatsword and know the hardest part is over. Now all you gotta do is finish the damn fight, and what a fight it is. Every attack entails immense damage, and the slightest misstep could cost you your souls. There is no scarier moment than when it grabs you and instills calamity or double damage onto you. You can only blame your death on one thing: your skill. KALAMEET takes the cake for strongest and best boss in Dark Souls, and I'm honored to put it in the S tier. So that's the ultimate fact-based Dark Souls boss tier list. I hope you enjoyed it. If you agreed with my tier list, hey, drop a like, comment, and subscribe maybe, you know, that'd be pretty cool of you. And if you disagree with my tier list, you know, do it anyways. Cause guess what? I still like you. You may have stupid opinion, doo-doo opinion, but I still like you. Hopefully I'll have another video out next week. I'm trying. I'm gonna do it, hopefully. But that's about it. Bye, everybody's.